You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Well, we've got some juicy news for you today on Sunday, February 17th. I hope everyone had a chance to check out the live streams from Friday and Saturday night, and I want to thank everyone who was there live joining me in the chat. First of all, from the Gateway Pundit, ex-FBI lawyer James Baker testified that 2 cabinet members were ready to support the 25th Amendment coup against President Trump. Uh-oh, Jim. Former FBI lawyer James Baker testified to Congress in October that he was told that DAG Rosenstein said 2 Trump cabinet members were ready to support removing President Trump via the 25th Amendment. James Baker gave 2 testimonies to the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees in October in an unclassified setting, and the transcripts of his testimonies still have not been released to the public, probably because they were too damaging. Only excerpts of his testimonies have been leaked to the media. Fox News has confirmed the latest portion of James Baker's testimony. However, according to Fox, Mr. Baker did not identify the 2 cabinet members. Mr. Baker said in his testimony that both Andrew McCabe and Lisa Page told him about their conversations with Rod Rosenstein about ousting Trump via the 25th Amendment. Now, via Fox News, I was being told by some combination of Andy McCabe and Lisa Page that in a conversation with the Deputy Attorney General, he had stated that this was what was related to me, that he had at least 2 members of the president's cabinet who were ready to support. I guess you would call it an action under the 25th Amendment, Baker told the committees. Fox News requested further comment from the parties involved. Lawyers for Baker and McCabe declined to comment, as did an FBI spokesperson. In his testimony, Baker said of McCabe's state of mind, "At this point in time, Andy was unbelievably focused and unbelievably confident and squared away. I don't know how to describe it other than I was extremely proud to be around him at that point in time because I thought he was doing an excellent job at maintaining focus and dealing with a very uncertain and difficult situation. So I think he was in a good state of mind at that point in time." The New York Times reported Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's plot to wear a wire and oust Trump with that 25th Amendment. DAG Rosenstein began plotting Trump's removal shortly after FBI Director Comey was fired. The New York Times reported in September, citing memos penned by then-acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe. Rosenstein fought back and said the New York Times report is inaccurate. The DOJ also released a statement last week reiterating Rosenstein's denial he was plotting a coup against the president. The Deputy Attorney General never authorized any recording that Mr. McCabe references. As the Deputy Attorney General previously has stated, based on his personal dealings with the president, there is no basis to invoke the 25th Amendment, nor was the DAG in a position to consider invoking the 25th Amendment, a DOJ spokesperson said last week in a statement. According to Fox News, James Baker testified that he was not directly involved in the May 2017 coup discussions. However, he maintains that Lisa Page and Andrew McCabe approached him immediately after their meeting with Rod Rosenstein, just days after Comey was fired by Trump. Baker's partial transcript via Fox News says, "I had the impression that the DAG had already discussed with these 2 members in the president's cabinet and that they were on board with this concept already," Baker said. During the closed-door hearing, the former FBI lawyer told lawmakers he could not say whether Rosenstein was taking the initiative to seek out cabinet members. Question: Do you know what direction that went? Was it Mr. Rosenstein seeking out members of the cabinet looking to pursue this 25th Amendment approach, or was it the other way around? Baker responds, "What I recall being said was that the Deputy Attorney General had 2 members of the cabinet. So how they came to be had, I don't know, but..." Question: So he had 2 members, almost like he was taking the initiative and getting the members? Baker says, "That would be speculation on my part." Baker also said he did not know the names of the 2 cabinet officials. "Lisa and Andy did not tell me, and my impression was they didn't know themselves," he said. McCabe got the attention of Republican lawmakers in both the House and Senate last week after a portion of his 60 Minutes interview aired. McCabe said in his 60 Minutes interview that the top DOJ officials were so worried over President Trump's decision to fire corrupt Comey as FBI director that they discussed invoking the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office in several different meetings. Andrew McCabe also ordered officials to open an obstruction of justice case after Trump fired Comey to see if President Trump was acting as an agent on behalf of Russia. McCabe then panicked and walked back his statements after conservatives accused him of plotting a coup. Melissa Schwartz, comms director for the Bromwich Group and spokesperson for Andrew McCabe, released a statement Friday morning claiming her client McCabe was taken out of context and misrepresented. These corrupt officials aren't even hiding their attempted coup anymore. They're publicly admitting they plotted to remove the president without any fear of reprisal. And that's the thing right there. They still believe that they were in the right. Now that people are talking about the fact that they were plotting a coup, they're freaking out and they're trying to walk back their statements. But Andy, it's all on film. Now, the other thing that I have to say about this is, we have been told on multiple occasions if, it's been intimated perhaps that DAG Rosenstein is not dirty and then he's playing along. So if he was playing along, perhaps he was baiting these officials to see how far they would go in an effort to, maybe get some information on them and bring it back to the president and say, these people are the ones who are willing to go through this coup motion and use the 25th Amendment to attempt to take you out. But as he stated, there is no reason under the 25th Amendment to remove the president. This is a hollow gesture here, but this is still a coup, and a coup is a coup. All right, these guys are about to pay. They are going to pay bigly. Now, just a little more on the two cabinet members that were willing to testify to Trump's incapacitation via the 25th Amendment. Now, it was included in the Post last night, just after midnight, in the article from Fox. I covered the article from the Gateway Pundit. But just after that, at 2 a.m., our favorite Anon said, they were removed. When was Page removed from the investigation? What month? July 2017? Early. When was Scaramucci hired? July 2017? Late. Regarding the Scaramucci model, 5x5, those who left, majority did not have a choice. All remained pro-MAGA and loyal to POTUS? Why are we attacked by pro-MAGA? The establishment runs deep. Logical thinking. So these people were not pro-MAGA, obviously. Now, I'm just speculating here, but thinking about when Scaramucci was hired and who left publicly in the wake of his hiring. Well, let's go take a look. This is from CNN, I know, but it tells us each of the individuals that left Trump's cabinet and when they left. On July 6th of 2017, we had Tara Dahl, Deputy Chief of Staff for the National Security Council, her unknown departure, no reason given. We had Walter Schaub, Office of Government Ethics Director. He resigned on July 19th. We had Mark Corallo, spokesman and communication strategist for Trump's legal team. He resigned on July 20th. We had Rich Higgins. He was a strategic planning aide. He was fired July 21st. We had Sean Spicer, the White House press secretary. He resigned on July 21st. We had Michael Short, assistant press secretary, unknown departure reason, on July 25th. Derek Harvey, National Security Council advisor, fired on July 27th. Reince Priebus, White House chief of staff, fired on July 28th. George Gisikos, White House director of scheduling and advance, he resigned on July 31st. And Anthony Scaramucci, of course, the White House communications director, who was fired on July 31st. Now, as the result of Anthony Scaramucci joining the administration, it was Reince Priebus and it was Sean Spicer who left as a result of that hiring. Now, so is it that Sean Spicer and Reince Priebus are the two cabinet members that were willing to testify against him? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there, but we have this entire list of individuals, beginning with Tara Dahl in July 2017, that left the White House and President Trump's cabinet, and it all ends with Anthony Scaramucci, last to leave in July. And posted shortly after that at 2:27 a.m., our favorite Anon takes us back to this post from November of last year, November 10th, reminding us of the Scaramucci play. Temp hire to remove embedded, untrustworthy staffers, and specifically calls out Spicer and Priebus, and states that temps can be very dangerous to those who are targeted. Now, more on Andrew McCabe. Andrew McCabe caught lying under oath, and he admits it in the 60 Minutes interview. This is big here. Fired FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe will appear on 60 Minutes tonight in his first national interview since leaving the White House. CBS News correspondent Scott Pelley teased the interview on Thursday. According to Pkwy, Andrew McCabe says the FBI and DOJ Democrats discussed wearing wires several times to spy on President Trump. Andrew McCabe also told Scott Pelley he ordered an obstruction of justice probe into President Donald Trump after he fired Director James Comey. But this is not what Andrew McCabe told Congress under oath. Here is where it gets interesting. Andrew McCabe spoke to the Senate Intelligence Committee the day after he opened up an obstruction of justice investigation on Trump and 2 days after James Comey was fired. Via the Senate Intelligence Committee website, acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe said, "You know, it was completely within the president's authority to take the steps he did. We all understand that." Well, if it was within his authority, then why would he open up an obstruction of justice case, and why would he seek to use the 25th Amendment to have the president removed? Well, looks like McCabe is going to have to answer to Lindsey Graham and the other members of Congress that would like to talk to people who have lied under oath. Now, on that note, this is actually a story that I was going to cover, and it was published on the boards by our favorite Anon. But when I went to go bring it up with my ad blocker on, it stopped working. And then I went back, took the ad blocker off, went back. Looks like Fox has removed this story, probably either because there were so many people visiting because of the post, or perhaps maybe it got someone scared. But it goes like this. I had to go to the Internet Archive. Graham calls McCabe comments beyond stunning as he threatens to subpoena the former FBI chief. Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican, South Carolina, vowed Sunday to investigate alleged discussions at the Department of Justice about invoking the 25th Amendment as a way to oust President Trump from office, and threatened to subpoena former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe if he refused to testify on the matter before the Senate. We're going to find out what happened here, and the only way I know to find out is to call the people in under oath and find out through questioning who's telling the truth, because the underlying accusation is beyond stunning, Graham, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, said on CBS's Face the Nation. Graham added that he also plans to subpoena both McCabe and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein if they won't voluntarily agree to testify before the committee. There is no organization beyond scrutiny, Graham said. There is no organization that can't withstand scrutiny, and the FBI will come out stronger. He said, but we've got to get to the bottom of it. What are people to think after they watch 60 Minutes when they hear this accusation by the acting deputy, acting FBI director, and the deputy attorney general encouraged him to find out ways to count votes to replace the president? That can't go unaddressed. Graham's comments come on the heels of a Fox News story that reported that former FBI lawyer James Baker, in closed-door testimony to Congress, detailed alleged discussions among senior officials at the Justice Department about invoking the 25th Amendment. The testimony was delivered last fall to the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees. Fox News has confirmed portions of that transcript. It provides additional insight into discussions that have returned to the spotlight in Washington as fired FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe revisits the matter during interviews promoting his forthcoming book. Baker did not identify those two cabinet officials, but in his testimony, the lawyer said McCabe and FBI lawyer Lisa Page came to him to relay their conversations with Rosenstein, including discussions of the 25th Amendment. And here is the section that was quoted in that Gateway Pundit story. Now, background on 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment provides a mechanism for removing a sitting president from office. One way that could happen is if a majority of the president's cabinet says the president is incapable of discharging his duties. Since giving the interview to 60 Minutes, McCabe has since made an about-face, with a spokesperson for the former FBI chief releasing a statement that says McCabe did not participate in any extended discussions about the use of the 25th Amendment, nor is he aware of any such discussions. The Justice Department issued a statement calling McCabe's comments inaccurate and factually incorrect. Reports of the discussions of invoking the 25th Amendment and of Rosenstein wearing a wire were reported in the New York Times, the failing New York Times. So I think that with all of this increased scrutiny on Andrew McCabe and the statements about the 25th Amendment, he has dug a very deep hole. And I do not see any way for Andrew McCabe to get out of this. You cannot talk about removing a sitting president from office, a duly elected leader in the United States of America, without having some extreme repercussions come down on you about this. Lindsey Graham has been activated. Lindsey Graham is going to do what it takes to get this guy back in front of Congress and testifying under oath and answering to the things he said previously and to the things he said in this CBS interview. These guys are in trouble. Now, also in a recent post from the board, from Politico, Whitaker to stay at the Justice Department following stint as acting AG. Yes. Former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker will remain at the Justice Department despite William Barr's being sworn in to lead the department. Whitaker, who served as chief of staff to then Attorney General Jeff Sessions until President Donald Trump tapped him for the acting role in November, is now a senior counselor in the Associate Attorney General's office, the department spokesperson said Friday. Attorney General William Barr was sworn in at the White House on Thursday after the Senate voted 55-45 to confirm him. The Office of the Associate Attorney General, whose titular role is currently filled on an acting basis, oversees, among other things, the DOJ's divisions on civil rights, antitrust, tax, and the environment. Antitrust. I like that. Whitaker was a controversial player in the president's cabinet, drawing backlash from congressional Democrats who protested his past public statements that were critical of special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation, an inquiry Whitaker oversaw during his time as acting attorney general. Democrats also attacked Whitaker for his time serving as an advisory board member for a patent company banned from the industry by the Federal Trade Commission for fraud. The former acting attorney general was the first major Trump official to face a grilling by the House Democratic majority, testifying in a contentious hearing before the House Judiciary Committee last Friday. Whitaker's career plans had until now been something of a mystery. On Monday, a representative of the National Sheriff's Association offered the outgoing acting attorney general a gift after he wrapped up a speech to the organization during a Washington, D.C. conference. Great. Is it a new job? Whitaker quipped. Matt Whitaker has a great sense of humor. I love this guy. I love him. Hopefully, his role here, continuing on at the DOJ, will bear some excellent results. I really like that he's going to be in this department that is overseeing antitrust stuff, because that could mean that he's going to be going after the media titans of the world, such as Google, YouTube, such as the platform we're using, such as Twitter, such as Facebook, things like that. We'll have to wait and see. And hide your wives and hide your kids. Anthony Weiner has been released from federal prison. Disgraced federal rep Anthony Weiner has been released from prison and placed in a residential reentry facility, a halfway house. He has been sentenced to 21 months in prison for sending sexually explicit messages to a minor. Weiner had been sending a graphic and sexually explicit text messages to a 15-year-old North Carolina girl in 2017. Disgusting, this guy. The Federal Bureau of Prisons has Weiner listed as being in the custody of a residential reentry management office in Brooklyn, New York, according to a report from the Associated Press. The investigation into his chats with the girl led to a laptop being seized from the home Weiner shared with his wife, Huma Abedin, a top aide to Hillary Clinton. 2 weeks before the election, FBI Director James Comey announced that emails related to the candidate's private email server may have been found on a laptop used by both Weiner and Abedin, prompting the agency to reopen their probe into the scandal. Weiner's predatory messages to the teen were not his first sex scandal. In 2011, Weiner tweeted a photo of his crotch, which led to his resignation from Congress. During his run for mayor of New York, Weiner made headlines once again after porn star Sydney Leathers went to the media with their explicit chats. During the 2016 election season, the New York Post obtained a new graphic chats between Weiner and a busty brunette, including a photo of his crotch taken with his 5-year-old son sleeping in the bed in the background. What a perv. Weiner's wife, Huma Abedin, has worked closely with Clinton since the 1990s during Bill Clinton's presidency. She has been a top aide to the former First Lady ever since. Weiner's sexual scandals were chronicled in a now popular documentary called Weiner, in which Abedin's contempt for him was impossible to miss. That's an incredible documentary, guys. If you haven't seen that, you really should. Pretty amazing. There's one point where you can actually hear Huma Abedin. She gets up from this interview with her and Anthony, and she walks into the bedroom, and you can hear her take her wedding ring off and throw it. Oh, man, she really did not like that guy. And in some excellent news on the wall from the Epoch Times, Pentagon chief likely to approve border wall funding request, defense official says. From Ivan Penchikov, acting U.S. Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan will likely approve the White House request to shift $3.6 billion from the military construction budget toward construction of a wall on the southern border. according to a Department of Defense official speaking on the condition of anonymity. President Donald Trump declared a national emergency on the southwest border on February 15th, F-15. The declaration enables the White House to shift $3.6 billion from the military construction budget toward work on a physical barrier on the U.S.-Mexico border. According to the law, the defense secretary has to decide whether the wall is militarily necessary before money from the military construction budget can be used. We always anticipated that this would create a lot of attention, and since monies potentially could be redirected, you can imagine the concern this generates, Shanahan told reporters traveling back with him from his trip to Afghanistan, the Middle East, and Europe. Very deliberately, we have not made any decisions. We have identified the steps we would take to make those decisions, Shanahan said. He added that military planners had done the initial analysis and he would start reviewing it on February 17th. That's today. The White House announced February 15th that it had secured $8.1 billion in funds for border wall construction. The funds consist of $1.4 billion approved by Congress, $600 million from the Treasury Department's forfeiture pot, $2.5 billion from the Defense Department's drug interdiction program, and $3.6 million from the military construction budget. Only the military construction funds required an emergency declaration. The White House said that the funding sources will be used sequentially and as needed, suggesting that up to $4.9 billion of the funds can be used before any of the emergency funds from the military construction budget are tapped. The U.S. defense official said Shanahan would meet with the service secretaries in the coming days to pick which specific projects the money should be coming from. Shanahan said that planners had identified the different sources of money that could be used, but he had not decided specifically what projects it would impact, and ultimately it was his decision. I am not required to do anything, he said. Shanahan said he did not expect to take money away from projects like military housing. Poor standards of military housing were highlighted by recent Reuters reporting, which described rampant mold and pest infestations, childhood lead poisoning, and service families often powerless to challenge private landlords in business with their military employers. Military housing, what's been interesting, I've received a number of letters. I've had lots of feedback saying do not jeopardize projects that are underway, Shanahan said. As we step our way through the process, we'll be using good judgment, Shanahan said. On the campaign trail, Trump promised to build a wall on the southwest border to stop the flow of drugs, gangs, and illegal aliens into the country. Since Trump took office, Democrats have obstructed all attempts to secure funding for new barriers, but conceded after the president refused to sign any legislation which did not include funds for a border wall. The concession consists of $1.4 billion for 55 miles of new wall in the Rio Grande Valley, far short of the $5.7 billion Trump requested late last year. When the president agreed to briefly reopen the government in January, he promised to use executive powers to secure the funds if Congress failed to deliver the $5.7 billion. I will never waver from my sacred duty to defend this nation and its people. We will get the job done, Trump said in a statement following the February 15th announcement that he will sign the spending bill approved by Congress and declare an emergency on the border. The $1.4 billion allotted toward wall construction is part of a larger $333 billion spending bill, the passage of which has been delayed by the impasse between the president and congressional Democrats. In addition to the wall funds, the spending bill includes a larger border security package, all part of a funding request made by experts at the Department of Homeland Security. The package includes $400 million to address the humanitarian crisis on the border, funding food, medical care, transportation, and processing centers. The Rio Grande Valley, where the 55 miles of new border wall will be built, is the border section with the most known illegal crosser deaths in the fiscal year 2018, according to the White House. 40% of all border apprehensions occurred in the Rio Grande sector. As expected by the White House, the president's emergency declaration was challenged in a lawsuit filed on behalf of 3 Texas landowners. Additional lawsuits are likely to come from congressional Democrats and liberal interest groups. Trump said on February 15th that he expected to prevail in the Supreme Court. And prevail he will. Now, as we saw in this article here, only a portion of this money needs to be approved by Congress, and the other portions of it are already appointed in the military spending budget. Now, all Patrick Shanahan needs to do is agree to that transfer of money, and Trump has the amount of money that he asked for previously. But all told, with the emergency declaration, we're going to have over $8 billion, and the wall is going to be far bigger and better than anyone had previously hoped. And the Democrats will not do anything to stop it. They will not be able to do anything to stop it. And now on the note of the wall and the border security victory that I've been talking about, our favorite Anon in Post 2747 at 2:20 a.m. last night, just before that Scaramucci play post, gives a couple of statements directly from the president from the White House. Now, this was published on the 15th regarding the victory on the border security, and of course, President Donald Trump had stated that he would never waver from his sacred duty to defend the nation and its people. We will get the job done. Now, he was elected, of course, on the promise to build this wall, and he said all along that sections of the border wall are already being built and that legislation and executive actions are building on that progress we've already been making. Now, the executive action taken by the president makes additional funding to secure our border that is essential to our national security. Now, President Trump secured a number of significant legislative victories in the Homeland Security Appropriations Bill that further his effort to secure the southern border and protect our country. The funding bill contains robust resources and additional provisions to secure the border and strengthen immigration enforcement. Now, we have a lot of concern trolls who are worried about the things that are stated in that bill. The next statement is a direct statement from the president regarding that information. So, in stating that he signed that Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2019 today, which is now called the Act in the statement. Now, certain provisions of the Act would require advance notice to the Congress before the president may direct certain military actions or provide certain forms of military assistance. President Trump says that in signing the Act, I reiterate the well-established understanding of the executive branch that these types of provisions encompass only military actions for which providing advance notice is feasible and consistent with the president's constitutional authority and duty as commander-in-chief to ensure national security. In addition, Division C, Section 527, and Division A, Section 516, both restrict the transfer of Guantanamo detainees to the United States. I will treat these and similar provisions consistent with the president's constitutional authority as commander-in-chief. Numerous provisions could, in certain circumstances, interfere with the exercise of the president's constitutional authorities to negotiate international agreements, and he goes to list them. My administration will treat each of these provisions consistent with the president's constitutional authorities with respect to foreign relations. Now, basically, what he's stating is that he is the president. He has well-established constitutional authority to do what he believes is right to keep our country safe. That means, as I stated previously, the restrictions hold no weight. And our favorite Anon says, trust your president. President Trump is not a stupid man. He would not be doing these things if he was not able to carry out the promises that he has made. These restrictions placed in this bill hold absolutely no water compared to the constitutional authority that our president has to secure our nation, to secure our borders, and to keep the citizens of our country safe. This Anon said, I trust POTUS and I trust the Lord. The Lord is leading POTUS, of that I'm certain. And our favorite Anon says, the Lord is leading us all. This truly is a fight of good versus evil. And in this post, an Anon states, these phrases below imply that Trump plans on following his constitutional rights no matter what he signed in the Consolidated Appropriations Act, which authorizes appropriations to fund the operation of a number of agencies in the federal government through September of this year. He says again, my administration will treat each of these provisions consistent with the president's constitutional authorities with respect to foreign relations, and my administration will continue the practice of treating provisions like these as advisory and non-binding. Exactly. My administration will make appropriate efforts to notify the relevant committees before taking the specified actions, and will accord the recommendations of such committees all appropriate and serious consideration, but it will not treat spending decisions as dependent on the approval of congressional committees. Boom. As I've been saying, and as our favorite Anon has now reiterated for us, after our president reiterated for us, the president is going to do what the president needs to do, because he is the commander-in-chief of our country. We're told, you are the news now. And that is what I do, what I am doing here. This is important work. We have to sort the truth from the fiction. And there are so many people out there concerned that President Trump is giving away his powers, that President Trump is allowing Congress to win. As our favorite Anon just said, this is a fight of good versus evil. Okay, we were reminded last night to pray. We need to pray, all right? We need to remember that God is in charge and that God is leading our president to do what's necessary, to do what's right for us. But that does not mean the fight is over. This is the time to buckle down. This is the time to remember the sanctity of the work that we are doing. We cannot forget that our president has a goal, he has a mission, and that our Lord is leading him on that mission. All right? Never forget the power of prayer. I was reminded of that earlier today by multiple individuals. I think that it is no coincidence that these two separate people both reminded me of this. So I'm going to remind everyone here. I don't know what's going to happen. I have my own beliefs. I have my own ideas about what is taking place. And I'm telling you guys that because I have a platform to do that. But that does not negate the need for us to continue to pray for the safety of our country, to pray for the safety of our president, and to pray for the safety of this mission. And lastly, one more from the Gateway Pundit. It gets better. Jussie Smollett rehearsed the MAGA assault with Nigerian brothers. Wow. When America is so great that you have to hire two dudes from Nigeria to oppress you. Man, the wolf who cried MAGA. The Jussie Smollett hate hoax officially blew up, but the Empire actor refuses to admit he staged the MAGA attack that took place 2 weeks ago. Fox reported Saturday afternoon that Chicago police sources confirmed detectives were able to show that the Nigerian brothers, who were persons of interest and questioned by police, bought the rope found around Jussie Smollett's neck at Crafty Beaver Hardware that weekend of January 25th. Jussie Smollett paid for the rope. The Nigerian brothers were paid $3,500 before leaving for Nigeria and were promised another $500 as soon as they returned back to the U.S. And it gets better. According to sources, Jussie Smollett and the two Nigerian brothers rehearsed the MAGA attack. Sources said one of the brothers held the rope and poured bleach while the other wore a plain red hat and yelled racist and homophobic slurs at Smollett, reported CBS Chicago. Smollett also had the Nigerian brothers purchase 2 red ball caps from the Uptown Beauty Supply to wear during the attack so they would appear to be Trump supporters. It was reported Saturday night that the Chicago police is no longer looking at Empire star Jussie Smollett as a victim in his alleged assault, but rather an active participant. Despite all of the reports from police sources that Jussie Smollett staged the hate crime, his lawyers pushed back in a statement late Saturday night calling the Chicago cops liars. Jussie Smollett's attorneys Todd S. Pugh and Victor P. Henderson released a statement last Saturday night insisting the alleged MAGA attack that took place on January 29th in the sub-freezing temps in Chicago was real. According to reports, high-profile attorney Michael Monaco is no longer representing Jussie Smollett after a disagreement about the decision to release Saturday night's statement. Jussie Smollett could get up to 3 years in prison for filing a false police report in the state of Illinois. Amazing. Now, I hear that this is also going before a grand jury, so Jussie Smollett and the evidence against him are going to be presented to a jury of his peers. Hopefully, it's not an unbalanced jury, and we will have some charges brought against Jussie. Well, that's all I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, I am Red Pill 78, the corruption detector, and this has been your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.